Deleted session. January 3rd, 1978. Now, good evening. I will try again. Give me time to develop this in my own way. Forget ideas of good and evil for our discussion. For one thing, men who perform seemingly evil acts, but who believe those acts to be right and justified, can be carried along in relative safety for some time before their errors catch up with them, because the power of their own self-approval is so strong. This does not mean that they will not face consequences, but their self-approval provides a sturdy rudder that holds them often aloft, where most men might perhaps be drawing in the same circumstances. I have given you much information that apparently has not sunken through, and I have couched information in various ways. I have given suggestions for you to follow, many of them, and any of them followed with a sense of purpose. Any one of them would lead you in a proper direction. You even have some evidence that this is the case. The suggestions have not been followed with any overall sense of purpose or continuity. We will return to that later. Beneath all of the other issues and reasons at any given time, and perhaps the answer to your earlier voiced question, is the act that more important than you realize, that for some time in vital areas you have not approved of yourselves. You have not had your own approval. An animal approves of itself unthinkingly. It certainly does not judge itself against any other animal. It knows quite well that some are stronger and some weaker, but it approves of its own uniqueness, glories in it, without having any other picture in its mind of what it should be. It has its own approval. Ruber has not had his own approval. The physical symptoms are the physical materialization of that disapproval. They serve as a constant reminder of his imperfections, but imperfections in relationship to what? The same to a lesser extent applies to you. Ruber believes he should be a TV personality, a healer, a writer, an excellent psychic versed in all of the most esoteric traditions, a magnetic personality. He believes he should be objectively intellectual, cool and calm, and spontaneous at the same time. He should be in glowing health, glowing and shine amid the multitude. A rather impossible task that would make any individual feel quite inferior by contrast. You expect yourself to be a great artist, lost in the intricacies of what you think of as an artistic, emotional reality, innocent of any interfering intellectuality. You berate yourself on the one hand for an intellect that it seems to you separates you from immediate emotional contact with painting and with others. At the same time, of course, you would certainly berate a Van Gogh for his overly emotional behavior. Your intellect operates beautifully in the notes and appendixes of unknown, but instead of rejoicing in it, you wonder if your notes lack the very kind of emotionalism that would make that particular kind of clear intellectual objectivity most difficult. When you are writing, you are pleased, finally at least, with the working of your mind, but angry that you are not painting. When you are painting, you feel guilty, not only because the painting does not bring in money, by now not that much of a concern, only a nagging accusation, but that also you haggle at your intellect. You wish for the intensified emotional preoccupation that would close your mind to all else but painting. Physical exercise becomes the area between, taking you from both your painting and writing, and furthermore is a reminder, an angry one, that the physical working area, the chores are largely yours to do. Ruber emulates your own work habits and tries to regulate his creative life so that it bears a resemblance to yours. He tries to be disciplined, put in his time, temper his emotional nature, so neither of you approve of yourselves. Unknown simply became a platform. It shows the extant ways in which your natures interact, and that is what the reader will perceive. It also formed a platform for the ways in which you misunderstand each other, and therefore has served as a symbolic role of contention. The contention is one caused by riches, creative riches, and abundance. Ruber's creative work is highly spontaneous. It comes in bursts in its own way outside of time. He is very impatient at the work involved in inserting it into time. The misunderstandings, and this has been covered, lead to overreactions on both of your parts and lead both of you to misinterpret your contributions because initially you do not approve of yourselves. You expect yourself to be different people than you are, not appreciating at all the abilities and characteristics that you do possess, but forever weighing them against other abilities and characteristics that you have told yourself you should possess. You have written the equivalent of your own book from a unique standpoint in unknown, but neither of you have really been able to recognize that. Ruber, being true to his spontaneity, would forget publishing details. It is his attempt to try and match your individual methods of thought that confuse him. He is producing his books and mine, a double kind of production that entails almost two publishing schedules. These books are more than the work of one personality. They cannot be anchored to conventional ideas of time. In a strange fashion, they go faster than your lives. So physically you do have catch-up time. Give me a moment. You have far more than you realize. Utilize all ideas in your daily lives, both to ensure financial comfort, but more to achieve the satisfaction that you are indeed reaching others, helping to change their lives for the better. You have the knowledge that many do not possess, that you are indeed affecting your times. Because you have that knowledge, you do not realize the frustration felt by those whose words have little, if any, overall now impact, practically speaking. Your mental and emotional horizons have broadened, so that you now take for granted a mental world that others do indeed and probably look upon with wonder. Your achievements, singly and together, have not brought you the joy they should, because you think indeed that your achievements should lie elsewhere, or that in the face of the selves you think you should be, your realized selves are almost shoddy versions. This disapproval erodes your attempts to change. Ruber's in particular. Beside all that, you are trying to live your lives in a rather unique fashion, so that you are denied in large measure the comforts to which others flock. You see few people, so your moods can go unchecked by others, and you have found no measure to help break negative patterns effectively. When you do, however, you see results. You pick up each other's negative moods, however, so you write emotional stones. Ruber does not feel he can probably see his way out. Your feelings of spontaneity and discipline go back and forth. Ruber should stop telling himself that he does not want to see people. He may not want to have visitors at times. On other occasions, he enjoys spontaneous encounters. The eye problem has to do, physically, with his present stance, the lack of balance between the two sides of his body, causing pressure on one side of the jaw, and the ear canal, which further aggravates the fullness in the sinus, hence affecting the eyes. Beyond that, however, is the fact that you allow yourself, and he allows himself, no rest. You know how often, Joseph, you think about Rupert's condition, and it is not yours. So you can imagine how he is reminded of it with each step. Ralph asked, "Can I ask a question?" Ralph said, "You may." Ralph said, "How is all of this put up with the walking difficulty?" By the question, I mean, how has Jane's walking difficulties through the years resulted from her feeling that she should be all those things Seth recounted at the start of this station? They said, "He favors at this time one side, and all his weight and emphasis and direction bears him to the right. The left leg is longer, so that the stress is precisely applied to the right side. Both the angle of his head and jaw, and the position of his arms are involved. But the neck, those ligaments and muscles, largely bear the strain so that pressure is put upon the jaw on the right side, and this to some extent impedes sinus drainage in that area. That entire situation, however, ideally should have passed some time ago. Rupert's individual and your joint fears, however, prolong his tension, threatening what should be a transitory period. Give us a moment. His feeling that his work pattern should be like yours makes him worry when he becomes very relaxed. The suggestions I gave you about suggestion fall short largely because at the same time you could not jointly find a position of coolness. It should be easy for you to see that when Rupert was ready, you were not, or vice versa. His own exercises can serve a good purpose. They calm body and mind at once. That is at the same time, and they can serve you also. They allow a period of disengagement in which the benefits from framework 2 have time to act. I have said before to apply your creative attitudes in this area, and when you are, again, you have seen results. You have not felt free to express your fears to each other. For fear one will assert the other, and so the fears simply grow and then explode. Rupert has not expressed those feelings of hope and faith when he has them, for fear they will lead nowhere or mislead you. Your friend Bill Gunn is highly sensitive about eyes because of his own condition. He picked up your joint fears like a sponge, and was highly frightened because of his own fear. Your feelings of helplessness must really be confronted when you feel them, otherwise they erode your position. You each have a tendency to over-idealize yourselves, and therefore to find yourselves wanting by contrast. The over-idealization is rigid. A true idealization involves loving thoughts of the development and fulfillment of your abilities to the best possible condition. It does not involve criticizing creative abilities of your own by comparing them to others that you think you should possess. My last session was largely ignored by both of you, and yet in it there were important clues. Your own painting is growing, despite your own ideas of what you think it should be. Unknown is a creative triumph, despite your joint ideas of what that book should be. Rob said, Jane doesn't like it. They said, despite your joint ideas of what that book should be. All of Rupert's concerns about that book have to do with his impatience in time terms. That has to do with his misunderstanding, for he has not seen, really, that he is producing work for two personalities that cannot be squeezed into conventional publishing rhythms. He quite understands the overall creative triumph. It is only when he tries to become overly literal that he becomes overly concerned with time. He has also reacted to your own doubts and fears about the book, and has picked up often your own ambiguity in that regard. Had he really been so against the idea of the book being produced as it was, he would have said, "So indeed." Your feelings of helplessness are your enemy. They must be encountered, not shoved under the rug. Often one could help the other. But when the feelings are not voiced, they go underground. Rupert should give himself so much time a day, an hour and a half, say, for free creative thought, writing or whatever that turns into poetry, painting, all right? The work with predictions today, whatever the results, is creative, for it turns his mind into areas that will show results, often in completely unpredictable psychic events. When you grab hold of your feelings of creativity again, you have seen results, and you will see them. The own exercises can clear your minds. The freedom of communication will stop the erosion and the build-up of fear. Try those steadily and give yourselves a chance. They will almost immediately help you with your chased difficulty. Now I bid you a fond good evening, and I hope you will use this station with all of its implications. Russet, thank you, said good night.